All right, it's showing live, and it usually does go live. So I want to welcome everybody to episode 3. I guess this will be the off-season one, episode 3, and we've got quite the group tonight. And feel free to post up comments, all you hecklers that'll be out there, I'm sure, and we'll try and address any questions as well in the chat. And I'm not going to bore you guys with my background. I've talked about it on the previous 2 sessions. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I'm going to pass it around. We'll start with Josh. A little background: how long you've been riding, how long you've been racing, what's your goal for this year?
Yeah, been riding since 2008, 2009. First bike I ever bought was an R6. Never been on a motorcycle before and said I can handle that. Worst decision I'd ever made at the time. I just kind of rode a whole bunch of motorcycles, never really did anything serious with it. And then a few years ago, bought another R6, the one that you guys see on the track now, and just fell in love with racing on the track. And hopefully my goals, I'm hopefully going to meet this season. I just got bumped up to amateur at the end of last round, so try to take some podiums and beat Sean Clossy. That's my whole goal for 23.
Awesome. And they're already in there. Sean, squids, thanks, appreciate it.
I'm coming for you, buddy.
I just want to say I do remember a turn 1 incident with Sean Clossy. Very squid-like, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong.
Yes.
Let's pass it over to Jamie. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right. So I grew up single mom, no bikes or anything like that. So I had to get my own bikes when I was 18. I got my bike license. Got a pilot ship bike that ran for a week maybe, and then from there on just tried to grab different bikes. Started racing once I could afford it. Once I got a little older, made some money, so I've probably been racing about 10 years. Motocross, supermoto, flat track, track days, a bunch of different stuff. Then I did the 1 round at NEMRR last summer. Craig, you probably know what round that was. I forget what number round that was, but I did that, and then coming back to I did amateur bump times on my FS 450, but they want to see more of those times to bump me, I guess. So I'm going to go back, hopefully get the amateur bump first round this year, and carry on.
Awesome.
I started riding in.
I guess we'll just keep going around the clock. We'll go to Adam next, and Adam, Eli's talking trash.
Yeah, of course he is. What is he talking about? Turn 1. Yeah,
What did we learn about blocking 1A off the start?
Yeah, he always pulls into these lightweight races with his motard and somehow squares his way up right behind me going into 1, and then as we flick over to 1A, his hot move is diving up the inside of me as I flick over to 1A. So he loves doing that every single weekend, at least once. So he likes to throw that in on me. But
well, go ahead with your intro.
I've been racing NEMRR, or I guess it was LRS when I started, but it was I started at the end of 2015, early 2016. Before that, I raced a bunch of motocross growing up, and kind of did that for years until I was old enough to do the road race thing, and started on a 390 at Loudon in that 15-16 time frame. Rode that until 2018. So I rode 1 season of expert and 1 season of amateur and then 1 of novice, I think, or maybe it was whatever. It was mixed up, but did a bunch of that on the 390 and then bumped up to the Ducati stuff and kind of ran with that since 2018. So yeah, it's been 7 years? Yeah, something like that.
Time goes by way too quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, now he's calling you a Netra Ripper.
I don't. Oh, I rode a lot of dirt bikes growing up, so I did a lot of Netra stuff, hair scrambles and J-Day off-road moto stuff. So,
All right, let's pass it over to Ryan.
So, oh man, I think I started riding back the age of 13 is when I got my first dirt bike. It was an old XR100. The thing, it didn't run very well, so we were always pulling spark plugs and stuff like that. I mainly just rode in my driveway, and then eventually we packed up a U-Haul, went to Wachusett Valley Riders Club, which is in Winchendon, Mass. It's not there anymore, but just great tracks. First like track I ever really rode. I rode there a few times, and then I met she doesn't race here anymore, Brianna McHugh. She convinced me and my dad to go to Loudon. I ended up doing my first rookie round. I think it was 2020, last round of 2020. And then that's where it really started. So I rode the full season of 2021. This past year was my first full season expert. And a few goals that I have for this year are definitely to be up in the front with Eli, Adam, and Renee. Definitely some close friends of mine. So we like to give each other crap all the time. So it's just a good rivalry. So I'm looking to get up there this year.
I've been riding since 2015. Am I echoing, Craig, or am I good? Good. So I've been riding since
You're good. I keep forgetting to mute and unmute.
No, all right. So yeah, I've been riding since 2015. Started doing track days in 2017, I think. I maybe did like 2 track days my first year, and then another couple in 2018, and then I started racing in 2019. I think this will be my 5th season. I've only done 1 full season. The first season I came in like about halfway. The last couple seasons, I had a couple issues with bikes and fitness and stuff like that. So yeah, this will be another year where I can't commit to the full season, but I guess my big goal is to keep my physical fitness where it needs to be to do what we do. I have a tendency to just, if I'm not actively working out, I just get fatter and fatter. So yeah, gotta stay on it. So
Yeah, I think we all do that. I know I do. I have to really work at it. So yeah, it seems like Eli's going to be the main heckler tonight. Hide your stepmoms. Ryan's here. And then we got another one. Ratham. Ryan, is your dad still ripping that XR100?
Always. You'll see him ride around the pits on that thing.
All right. I'm going to try and keep the questions to a minimum till we get to the end. And then I'm going to let all the viewers ask all the questions they want. But I just jotted down some questions. And the first one, do you travel to other tracks, or do you just mainly stick with NEMRR out loud? And we'll go around the block again.
For me, I try to go as any track I can. Been to New York Safety, did Thompson. We just got back from Homestead, Miami, beginning of December. My goal this season is to run, I don't know if I'm going to run a full ASRA Mid-Atlantic, but I'm going to try to do as many of those as I can. And I hope that will, add to the seat time. It'll help me feel more comfortable, going into 3 facing a wall, Loudon. And Homestead definitely opened my eyes up to, a longer track. I think for me, I'm definitely going to try to travel as much as I can. And I got the truck and the trailer to pull the bike. So why not? Let's do it.
James, how about you?
I've been pretty fortunate to travel a lot, actually. I've been every track in the Northeast, all the way down to VIR. I've been to Florida, all over Florida, Chicago. I've done at Autobahn, or in Chicago, just outside of Chicago. Track days, racing, moto races, woods races, bunch of different stuff all over. A lot of mini moto, a lot of supermoto. That's kind of like my bread and butter.
Ryan?
Uh,
Renee says you love New Jersey, by the way.
no, that's not true. That is not true. So I think I'll definitely be at every Loudon round this year. So definitely be at Loudon. And I usually travel around with the Penguin School, and when they do Ducati Revs, so I'll be at Thompson this year. I'll definitely be at New York Safety Track. Won't make it to pit this year just because it's the Monday after round 5 or 6, so it's just not going to be there. And then probably most traveling I'll get done is to like moto tracks just to get some training in, or supermoto. Just stuff like that, more for training rather than racing. And maybe New Jersey for the 4th of July weekend. So that's what this year's looking like.
And go ahead, Daryl.
I mostly just ride at Loudon. I've done New Jersey before. I've done Thompson. I try to do a track day outside of the race series every season. But I run a number of businesses, and I have a hard time finding the time sometimes, trying to balance that, like afford the sport and have the time to do it, because it's pricey.
And last but not least, go ahead, Adam. Now that you're back.
Yeah. I don't know why it flipped over, but yeah. I mean, I try to ride other places, but it's mostly track days. I mean, I've been racing at Loudon for a while now. I just it's convenient. Obviously I live in New Hampshire, so it makes it really easy to do the Loudon thing. I try to do, like Daryl said, a couple track days here and there at other places, but I don't really road race other places. I do a bunch of motocross during the season, so that kind of fills my weekends instead of the road race stuff, because the budget really only stretches so much to do more than what Loudon is for me. So it's plenty of fun to do that, and I seem to do all right with it. So it's fun to do the moto stuff separately, and do a little bit of both everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I personally plan on trying to hit quite a few this year. Definitely going to Jersey, and of course February I'm going down to Roebling. That's my old home track. Yeah, so I'll spend 4 days on the track down there. And man, I'd love to get back to Road Atlanta again, VIR, and a few others. I just love the Southern tracks. They're just amazing. And I've never been to Homestead. I mean, Homestead opened right around the time that I was kind of phasing out of racing. And I've watched a couple of videos on Homestead, and it's your typical Southern track. It's fast. I mean, every place you go down south is fast. The most technical Southern track is probably, I would say, Road Atlanta is probably the most technical out of all the tracks I used to run all the time. Well, Little Talladega, that's another one that's a big Wira track. But I plan on definitely doing some traveling this year. Let's talk about crashing. How do you come back from a crash? The whole mind screw thing that goes on in your mind when you have a crash. How bad does that play on your mind when you're getting back on the bike and getting back out on the track? Josh?
Honestly, for me, I try not to focus on it. And I'll say this. I went down in 11, round 7 last season. Got off the track, and the guys that I was racing against ran over, got my bike, brought it back to the pit. And I just stood there and watched as they fixed it. And they said, let's go. You got to get ready for your next race. And I was racing all these guys again. And honestly, it made me feel like, wow, these guys, like, they don't want to see me out of this. They want to race against me. And like, that camaraderie was awesome. So I wasn't even thinking about getting back out there and where did I mess up or how did I screw up? And then I go out for the next race. I get to that turn. I go through it just fine. I was like, oh, yeah, I've done this a million times. I try not to think about it. And then later that night, when everybody comes over and starts showing you the video of, look what you did from my camera, and then you start laughing at yourself, like, that's when you start to really kind of reflect on it. But honestly, you know, there's really not enough time to sit there and worry about it. You get the bike back up and running, and you get out there and do it again. That's it. So for me, it's just, I think that was that was awesome, you know, for the help that we get in the garages and everybody coming over and making sure the bike's ready to go, and you just go out there and do it. It's great.
And our lineups changed a little bit here, so we'll go to Ryan next. And who was it? Eli says that's your best subject, so I'll let you address him, and then you can tell us how it plays on your mind.
He may have a point, but I think I found that helped myself the most was after a crash is kind of just putting it in the back of my mind, you know, realizing that you made a mistake here. Knowing what I did wrong is really one of the big things. If I don't know what I did wrong, then that kind of screws with you. But usually I was able to diagnose pretty quickly or have other people diagnose pretty quickly, you know, what happened. So it's kind of like that. All right, you know what you did wrong. Don't do it again, and just go on with your race. And I found once you get into that race mode, it kind of just goes away. Like you're in that focus. So it kind of just leaves your mind, and you're, you know, pushing to pass that person in front of you or catch up to them.
Darryl?
I agree with Ryan. The nature of the crash has everything to do with it for me. If you don't know what happened, like one of my first crashes was my first amateur weekend, a 1A like morning practice, and that one screwed with me for like the next 2 rounds. The last 2 crashes I had, one of them was from my motor locking up going into 3, and I started to fishtail. I thought I had like maybe banged down to first gear or something. Pulled the clutch in, tried to roll out of it, started to, feathered it out, chirp, right on the ground. But once I knew what happened, it was like, okay, not a big deal. The last crash I had was the notorious airbag in the middle of the racetrack. I hit it at 75 miles an hour. It sucked really bad. But that one didn't really get to me on the racetrack. It got to me like with other things in life. And, you know, it goes without saying, obviously, like, we understand how dangerous this is. So, you know, I had that crash, I think it was round 2. I did round 3, and then I bought a house, and I was working on the house and making babies and doing things and going like, you know what, like, I'm not really going anywhere with this, right? Like, I'm not going to Moto America. I'm not, you know, I'd be lucky if I ever get expert plates, but, you know, this will always be here for me if I want it. So for me, it's like knowing when to take a step back. And I've had to do that the last couple seasons. And you show back up, and it's like you never left, and same people are doing the same shit, and, you know, they welcome you back. So, but yeah, for me, it's all about the nature of the crash. So.
And Adam?
I don't know. I used to be pretty bad with this. Like, I was always a head case. I'm trying to work on it and like just lighten up and not really worry about stuff. I mean, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. You're probably gonna end up on your head at some point. But like, you know, you do want to know what happened. That does make it easier to just hop back on the bike. But I mean, mostly just taking it lighter, like realizing that this doesn't matter and that, you know, you're spending a boatload of money, and yeah, it stresses you out, and you're up there, you want to do well, you actually want to ride and put in the laps. But at the end of the day, you really don't need it. Doesn't matter. It's not getting you anywhere. Like, you'll get a sweet trophy at the end of the year and maybe a small credit if you're an expert. But at the end of the day, like, if you're, I don't know, if you're stressing about going down and stressing about all that stuff, and it's making you slower, it's just, I don't know, it's not going to help you at all just thinking about it and working yourself up over making a stupid mistake. So for me, it's just lightening up.
Yeah, it's not if you crash, it's when you crash. That's
Yep.
one thing to remember. Jamie?
Yep.
I've actually had a weird experience with this. I've never crashed, like, other than like a tiny little tumble stuff like mini moto or whatever, where you just get up and get on the bike and keep racing. It's actually kind of like a weird thing amongst my friends that, like, I've never crashed, and I feel like I'm kind of due for it, and I'm always like nervous about it coming because I'm like gone so long without it. I did have a crash, motocross. Well, actually, it wasn't a crash. So I was racing motocross, 50-foot triple, and I broke my ankle, exploded my ankle. But I rode away from it, landed on the wheels, rode away, rode to the medic tent, and got off the bike and said, "Take me to the hospital." So, I kind of have a weird situation with that. At 38, that ankle break, like, did some serious stuff to my life as far as being able to work and all that. So it definitely taught me a lesson. Like, hey, if I have a serious injury, shit could go sideways, and it's definitely something to think about. But we all want to be doing this and trying to figure it out. So I don't know.
Yeah, I knock on wood. I only had one big crash. I didn't have anything this past season. Of course, I didn't start until round 4. And I only did one race on round 4. I took to school and then did one race. And then I've only done 2 races for the next 3 rounds. But I got bumped up to amateur because I'm finally getting my track leg back under me. But I only had one really big crash. That was at Daytona in '97. I had a rather high-speed get-off high side coming out of the chicane, and that hurt. But I managed to back on it, and not then. The bike was pretty much junk, but I don't know. I put it out of my mind. Didn't worry about it. I knew what I did wrong. And as long as you can figure it out, I think you can put it in the back of your mind and put it behind you and just keep going. Another question I wanted to ask, what's your opinion on all the action cameras, using them to help better yourself for teaching points and things like that? Because we didn't have that back when I was racing before. And I use them on my bike, front, back, facing forward, facing backward. And it helps me a lot. I mean, I used to teach for the Ed Bargy School way back when. So I could tell you what you need to do to get around the track fast. I just can't put it into practice. So the camera's helping me figure out where I'm screwing up and what I need to do. But I want to get everybody else's thoughts on that. Josh?
Yeah, running a camera, it'll make an honest rider out of you. Because there's been times I've gone back into the garage after and been like, oh man, I went into turn 1 wide open. I didn't hit the brakes until the apex, and you should see what I was doing in 3. And then I watched the video and I'm like, 4 feet off the racing line, almost in the grass, thinking I'm, Rossi going into turn 1. And I watch it and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where the mistake was. So for me, I run a forward-facing camera, and I do like the GPS telemetry and all that stuff, so I can see where I am on the track and where I'm throttling in and hitting the brakes. And that was a game changer because I never ran one at the beginning because I didn't want to see how bad I was. But I think you should, if you're going to go to the track, pretend like it's there, turn it on, pretend like pretend like it's not there. Just, get some footage and learn from it. I mean, it's a great tool to have. And I run one in all my practices and all the races, and I keep it out of my mind. I don't go back to the garage and turn it on and start watching it because I like to kind of have it more organic feeling of feeling the track and doing it that way. I'll watch it a couple days later. I'll digest the weekend a little bit. I'll go back and watch it. And for me, that's a huge help, because then I can go into the next round saying, oh, I thought I was on the throttle until the apex of one. And here I am, hitting the brakes at the start finish line. So then I'm like, okay, this is where we need to work on, corner entry, or this is where we need to work on throttling out. So I'm all for it. And, next season I plan on running a 360 just so I can get more information, because honestly, the more information we have makes us better riders.
Ryan, what do you think?
Personally, I think I can definitely see how they're helpful, but I don't think I'll ever use one again. The first time I ever used one, I crashed, so it's kind of just like a bad omen. So I've thought about using them, putting one on like the back of my bike or putting one on the front, and then like probably like a helmet one, just so to like film the races, because it would be cool to go back and watch them. But as far as a learning tool, I can definitely see one on the back and one on the front as helpful. The back one facing towards your body, so you can look at your body position. That might be a decent tool. But the problem is that they're so damn expensive. So I don't know. It could go either way. I guess it's personal. It's different for everybody.
I used to be a psycho about running them. I'd run one in the front and one in the back. Recently, I got a newer GoPro, and I tried to run in the back of the 660, but the tail's only about this big, so you just get a really good shot of your ass the whole time. You can't see anything. So, but I do find it helpful. Sometimes it's like one more thing to take my head away from focusing on the job ahead. You're getting ready for your session, you're putting your gloves, your helmet, got to remember to turn the camera on, lap timer, all this stuff. And sometimes I find all that shit kind of stressful and pointless, but I don't know. I'm going to keep running mine. I run it in the front now. It's the only place I can run it. But I don't really, I only run it in races now. I don't run it for practice much.
Adam?
I don't use one at all. I don't think I've never run a camera at Loudon in all the years I've raced. I got brought into this by my old man. I mean, he's been racing up there since '91. He never had any of that stuff. Never even had lap timers. So like, I didn't even have a lap timer on any of my 300 stuff. Most of the early Ducati stuff, I don't think I ran one up until like just a couple years back. I thought, because I was kind of stuck running the same times. Like, I think I was stuck in like the 17s, low 17s, and I couldn't get past it. I started running a lap timer so I could see splits, kind of see where I was at. But I never ran a GoPro or any camera. I don't know. I mean, I was always like, people think it's cool, and I always thought it'd be cool to store the videos, but at the end of the day, I wasn't going to do anything with them, and I'm not going to sit back and watch my own stuff. I don't know. I've always just kind of been like, not against them, but just for me, I don't ever really bother with them at all. But I've always been kind of a feel rider too, just kind of like figuring it out on my own, like with what's going on, and following people and seeing stuff on the track. That like I don't try to analyze it as much as a lot of people do. So it's kind of, and maybe that's a flaw of my riding. Could definitely be, but like I've even like struggled to take notes, and like, it's just kind of not my style, I guess. But it's good for suspension and setup, but far from that for me. It's like, I've always just kind of felt the track out and roll the dice.
Shooting from the hip.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a loose program, but it works.
Go ahead, Jamie.
So my whole view on it, a little bit like Ryan's, partly from other sports, snowboarding, downhill mountain biking. Me and my buddies always kind of had the view that it was like bad voodoo to have cameras. You pull the camera out, somebody gets hurt, kind of was against them for that reason. But then I got caught on a few people's cameras, like riding somebody else's bike who had a camera on it. Or actually, Craig, I don't know if you remember, you showed me some footage of you behind me for a while at Loudon. And some of that stuff had like opened my eyes up to that. It's probably good to have one. And I actually have one for this coming season, haven't used it yet. So I'm going to kind of break my own rules about not having a camera. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, for me, because I've been doing like motorcycle vlogs before I got back into racing. So I do trips, and I had all this on my other YouTube channel, and now I'm putting all my motorcycle stuff on the channel because I've got a big Harley Ultra, a sofa I ride on the street, and I'll go on trips. We went out to Sturgis here. I took my wife, and it's just kind of nice to sit back and ride on something that big out on the road. But and then I got the bug again to go back racing, and I just kind of, because I've got like shitloads of GoPros kicking around here, and I also do other videos. I do a lot of video work for Rob's Dyno Service, so I've got these cameras, and I've got a regular professional grade video camera and some other stuff. So it just seemed natural to just, I don't even realize it's on the bike until I forget to turn it on. And then I said, shit, I forgot to turn it on. But I once I turn it on, that's it. It's out of my mind. I'm more intent on watching what I'm doing. And I won't look at it until I get back to the pits that evening. And when I'm in the trailer, I'll bring it up on the TV screen and I'll take a look at the video. And then I can try and pick my battles. Where do I need to improve? Which is almost everywhere at Loudon. That track is just insane compared to what I'm used to. So I can pick the spots that I want to work on, like for the next session, the next practice or whatever. So I think they're great for doing that. And yeah, and somebody who's never seen themselves ride and they get to see themselves, they're already critiquing what they're doing. I know Hannah, I followed him around for a while and he started looking at it, and we stuck a camera on his bike, and then he followed me around. So it's helped him. And just those last two sessions, he dropped enough time down to get bumped. He really progressed quickly after he saw what he needed to do.
Craig, are you running the data overlay stuff?
No, I need to, because I've got a Solo 2 on the bike, and I could take that GPS data and put it on the video, or I could turn the GPS on the camera and do it that way. And I probably need to, because that's.
You got any
definitely
advice for a GoPro 9 for overlay stuff, like how to get that done?
I don't, because I haven't really messed with it. But this year I'm going to play with it and see if I can get the overlays to work.
Race render works pretty well.
What is it?
Called Race Render.
Oh, okay.
And it's pretty cheap. And you just got to download the correct file, and it's a little challenging to get the timing right on it, but it works. You get close enough.
Race Render. Okay, cool. I'll look into that.
All right, next question coming. So coming to NEMRR was new to me, and they've got a novice program. Now I look at the novice program, it was unique. I thought it was a good idea, starting people in novice and having set times for them to meet. But also it's kind of a double-sided sword in comparison to some of the other organizations, whereas you don't have as big a grid set up for amateur races. And what do you guys think about that? I think the novice program is a good idea, especially as technical as Loudon is, because it's a real technical track. It's not very long and always something going on. So you really have to pay attention, and you don't have that long of a straightaway. So, you know, you're constantly paying attention to what's going on. But do you think that having a novice program is pulling away from the amateur side of it as well with smaller grids. Josh, what do you think about that?
Well, as somebody who earned the T-shirt "Novice Forever," and I'm sure a lot of you guys saw me wearing that T-shirt around the pits. Thanks to Mike, Sam, Sergio. There was a group of guys that handed that one out, so appreciate it. I think it's great for that track. I really do. That track is unique. I'm not going to say anything bad about it, other than it's unique. You're 1 foot off the race line, and it's a whole different track. And it takes a little bit of time at Loudon to understand the nuances of every turn and where the bumps are, and how to enter a corner, how to exit a corner, and I don't care if you're a novice or you're an expert. You go to that track, you're learning something new every time. And I understand it from a safety perspective as well. You got a person who is a novice who has never been on a bike before, comes there, does the Penguin school, and is running, a minute 53 lap times, and awesome for them to be out there doing that. But you can't put them into an amateur group where guys are running a minute 18s, a minute 17s, minute 19s. You can't do it. The closing speed is just too much. So for that track, absolutely. And I think it's a great way for you take the pressure off. It's still competitive. It's still a lot of fun, and you can build the camaraderie, because I'm going to tell you right now, I made I guarantee, lifelong friends running in the novice group at that track. And we all got bumped up to amateur next year, and we're going to be out there battling again. And I'm going to be out there supporting the novices that are coming up, because we want to see them all, be with us. I don't think it takes anything away from the amateurs. I think it actually supports that, in the sense the novices are going to be capable of handling faster speeds. They're going to be more consistent. So for me, I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. Absolutely is.
Ryan, what's your thoughts on it?
I definitely have to agree with Josh here. Definitely from the safety standpoint, as he mentioned with the closing speeds. I mean, when I came in as a novice, it wasn't going very fast. It was more of like a learning experience, and it took time to learn things that you would think would be, oh, all right, you don't do this in a racing situation, you don't do that could get you or someone else injured. But I think definitely from the safety standpoint, and the way that they have the classes put together, where they have like the experts and the amateurs in the same race, and then they have the separate novice races, I think that's good to learn. So just how Josh said, he's got friends from it, which is awesome, because that's people having fun. That's what we're all here to have, is have fun and progress fast, get faster. And I definitely think that if you were to put the novices and the amateurs, then it's becomes a whole different ball game. I don't think it would be as fun. I know I wouldn't have much as fun running with amateurs, just because when I was in novice, there was like a 6 to 10 second lap time gap. So it's, it kind of just spreads everything out. So, and I think definitely racing with other people helps you build that racecraft and racing situations. So I definitely have to agree with the splitting the novices off.
There.
And I got bumped out of novice, I think, my first round. In retrospect, I actually wish I could have stayed there a little bit longer. Maybe 2 or 3 rounds or something like that. They're doing it a little differently now, but it was like, I think I ran like my last race of the weekend, I ran like 2:23s. And then the next round, it was like, you're getting bumped up, and man, did that go to my head. Not like I thought I was a badass, but like, you're in the big pond now, I think it doesn't take away from the grids in the middleweight class, but like lightweight class this year in amateur it's pretty sparse. I mean, there might have been 4 or 5 guys in a race. Also, I mean, can you imagine being a guy running a 153 and having Eric Wood go blast by you in turn 9? I mean, that's freaking terrifying. It's terrifying when you can, when you're an amateur, never mind when you're a novice. So I think the addition of the super street and then, combined with the novice, it really is a good launch ramp for people. And, honestly, I wish it was around when I started. But, I think they've made a lot of good moves in the last couple of years with that. I think it's good to see them holding people back a little bit longer, just from the safety perspective. But yeah, I don't think it takes away from the middleweight grid is always stacked. I feel like it's the leader bikes are always pretty sparse. 4 or 5 guys running those, and then the lightweights are pretty sparse as well. So it's my take.
Go ahead, Adam.
Amateur. So I mean, when I was a novice for only like 1 or 2 weekends. It wasn't long, but I mean, I think it's a good thing. Because I think, dude, honestly, my first weekend, I had raced motocross a bunch before this, and it's not like I was new to bikes, but I think I was doing like 30 somethings on my 390. Like, I wasn't any speed demon at all. I wasn't riding well. I was kind of a mess. Like, definitely glad I had those couple weekends. I mean, it definitely, helps you figure it out. It's a different class. It's like you're just low stress, nothing going on. Not a lot of guys in it in the novice stuff. So it's always like you've got a ton of track space. You don't have to worry about things. And I think that's huge for new guys. But I mean, honestly, the closing speed thing is huge. Even if you're on the same bike as somebody and you're, a few seconds a lap faster, even just a few seconds a lap is big. I mean, Ryan, even in GT, like I'll catch up to the 400 kids, most of them still, maybe not all of them, but there's a good group of faster 400 kids in the GT that aren't going slow. It's just that, we're out there doing 15s and they're out there doing 18s, 19s. And before you know it, you're already catching back up and closing pretty quick. So it's like, different bikes, different riding capability. I mean, I think it's huge with a small track like Loudon. I mean, the lap traffic comes very quickly, no matter what class you're in. I mean, in GT for us, like the experts, it takes not but 2 or 3 laps and we're into lap traffic for the rest of the race. So it's, I think it's definitely important from a safety perspective at Loudon. I haven't really raced elsewhere, so I can't tell you how much of a shit show CCS is, but, and by the time I would have raced CCS stuff, I was an expert anyway. So I don't think I would have experienced the amateur side of that either. But, I think it's huge.
Yeah, CCS, it used to be a shit show way back, and I guess it's under new management now. So
Now, yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Jamie?
So my novice experience is interesting. I only got that 1 round in novice, and I did bump times. But now all these guys talking about the nostalgia for novice, maybe I should try to stick around novice longer. But I got at least 1 more round to do because they won't bump. I guess they're not doing first round bumps anymore or something. But yeah, one thing for me, like, so I had, probably 100 or more race starts in other different types of racing. And when I got a novice, I was shocked to see that there were people there that was their first race start ever of any sort. I was like, props to them, because like I was nervous and I have tons of starts under me. Like, these people are showing up, they don't know anything about anything. I was like, so seeing that, for sure, they need to be separated out. And especially for the experts, I think if you think about that, like, the novices would just screw up the experts, really, because their lines are pretty erratic and, it's hard to make clean passes on them at pace and all that. So I think it's good. I have limited experience, and, I'll be in novice for the beginning of next round. And then who knows from there, but hopefully out. But I don't know, maybe I should stick around.
Yeah, I I think they missed me for round 6, and then round 7 I got to stay in novice, and then they caught up to me, so I got the bump notification, which is good because I'm there. I had one little whoopsie there, the last race of round 7, where I had an ass end slide out on me in 6, and got my attention a little bit. But that night I had to do a lot of work on my SV, and as a matter of fact, while we were talking, the guy, he just texted me, the bike's supposed to ship out of Atlanta tomorrow. So I'll have the new bike here probably the end of the week. But yeah, I thought that the novice thing was fantastic just because of how technical Loudon is and how short of a track it is. When I was just getting out early 2000 or so, when I had other things going on in my life, I was getting away from racing. I noticed that the grids had been getting smaller and smaller. And I've been looking at some of the grids for some of the races down south, and especially the lightweight classes, they're pretty small. And I noticed one thing at Loudon is that the grids are much larger than they are elsewhere with some of the other organizations. So that's saying that they're trying to keep everybody engaged and progressing, and it shows. It's a family environment too. It's a great place. I can't say enough about it. I mean, I've only been there for 4 weekends, and everybody's like family. Everybody helps everybody, and it's been great. I'm really enjoying myself. Let's see what else. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Loudon Classic. And let's talk about the purse. And let's talk about predictions on who in the hell do you think is going to show up for a $50,000 purse. I know a lot of guys are saying, wow, they've never ridden Loudon. Yeah, but you get some of these, pro superbike riders. It won't take them long to figure it out. But I just hope that there's enough room for us little guys to still be able to park close to something when all the tractor trailer rigs start pulling in for the Classic. What do you think, Josh? You think that's going to happen or no?
Listen, I don't care if Josh Heron parks at my spot. I'm slashing his tires and I'm towing his truck out of there. That's my garage. I park there. Nobody's taking it. I got to be honest with you. I got mixed feelings about this. I don't want to say anything to upset anybody because, I don't like to stir the pot. But, man, we got a lot of riders there that have been pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into that track. And now we're going to open it up to anybody to come in here and try to take that money. It's kind of a slap in the face. I know I might be saying something out of turn here, but I get it's a big race. I get there's a lot involved in it. I guess there's sponsors giving this money, but what about a purse for like a little rookie race or something? What about a purse for like an amateur race? I have no chance in hell to compete against anybody that's going to show up there. And I would even say that maybe the last few percent of the expert groups doesn't have a chance to qualify against these guys. So you're basically saying, hey, this is just a big show. Here's all this money. Everybody come in here. We're going to give it to somebody that has never been to this track before. I don't like it. Whatever. You can disagree with me if you want to. I know there's a few people that agree with that. I don't know. I hope I'm not getting in trouble by saying it, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm a little bitter about it. I'm not saying I have a chance. That's not what I'm saying, but I
think the whole amount though is meant for bringing in that type of rider, though. It's not necessarily meant for just our riders. The whole thing is to bring different people into the series and test the waters with a big race like the Classic. So I think the perception of it needs to be known that it's not aiming to alienate the riders that are already at Loudon. I think it's really to increase the competition level at what we have. I mean, the last time that we had a true national was 2002.
Yeah.
And to see a national come back here, whether that brings fans or doesn't bring fans, or I think it could be big for the future of what we have going on, whether it actually shows or not right away.
I agree, but you'll never see these guys ever again because the purse is not going to be there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I agree.
I think we've got some guys that, like, I try to know my place at Loudon. You know what I mean? Like, there's a good old boy club there, of course, but there are guys that have been racing there since before I was born. And when you look at pictures from 85 or 86, and that place was friggin' packed for the Loudon Classic. And then the last 2 years, there's 20 spectators in a French fry stand. I think it's great. I personally don't have a chance of winning $300 at Loudon. So I don't care about the 250,000. I don't care about that. I think the goal is to put Loudon back on the map. I think the goal is to, like Adam said, open it back up for national. And I mean, I don't know that we'll ever see like regular Moto America races there, but it's a start. And I'll tell you, I'm excited to watch the friggin' race.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge looking at like the qualifying times and what they could actually be. I mean, I could potentially not qualify as one of the top lightweight experts on a good lightweight bike doing 15s. Like that could potentially not qualify me for a national at this track, which is pretty crazy considering all the time that I've put in for it. I mean, but at the end of the day, like that's definitely a stressed out kind of feeling. Like you're like, oh man, would I qualify? It'd be cool to find out. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's huge.
Well, and Brett Geyer posted a couple of things here in the chat, and
oh yeah, my old
the
man.
Loudon Classic was an AMA national race back in the day.
It was.
It was always a big national race. So I think they're just trying to build up Loudon and NEMRR. And I mean, even when he was talking about starting a hooligan class, kind of like the Moto America class, and trying to draw those guys in, I can't fault them for, getting all this big purse money. I think it's great, and I think it is going to be a draw. I do believe it's going to be a draw. Ryan, you haven't said anything on it. Let's hear from you, and then we'll go to Jamie.
Well, so I definitely have my mixed opinions about it. I definitely see Josh's point of view, and I definitely see Adam's point of view. I mean, it did used to be a national. They're trying to bring in these big riders, which attracts fans, brings people to the series. But I do agree with Josh how these people are, they're just going to come for one race. They're going to scram. But either way, I'm excited to watch the race. I think it's going to be a hell of a race. Times are going to be fast. I think there's a possibility of probably, I don't know, maybe 10s in that race. I mean, you don't know. We haven't really heard a lot about from who's coming. I don't know. You guys can correct me here, but I think it was 30 riders is what they were saying. Yeah, 30.
Yep.
So who knows? I mean,
30 qualify.
Yeah. So, I mean, like how Adam said, on a lightweight bike, 15s, and he may not even qualify. Like that's crazy to me. How like you could have some of the fastest times there at like a club race, and you bring in these pro guys, and I don't know. I have mixed opinions on the how fast they're going to learn the track. I understand it may not be the easiest track to learn, but these guys have ridden plenty of tracks, all these pro riders, and I have no doubt in my mind that they'll pick it up quick enough, especially since there's the 2-day Penguin School, there's the Friday before, and they got a Saturday. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to watch, and I'm ready to see what ensues and who brings home the big prize.
Jamie, what's your thoughts?
So my thoughts are kind of along the lines of everybody else. It's going to be exciting to watch, for one. I think a lot of the local guys that we have, the local heroes we have, are probably better off than a lot of people think, just because Loudon is such a different track, and a lot of these guys have never been on Loudon. There's probably a handful of them who have been up, but a lot of the big guys have never been there. I think the early rounds and racer practice and stuff, we'll see if we see new faces at those, and we'll kind of know who's coming at that point, because I think anybody serious is gonna try to learn the track a little ahead of time. But I think NEMRR could have done a better job with not souring the pits by putting up all this big money for essentially bringing these big names and not giving back to the community. I don't think that was probably the point from day one, and I don't know what the sponsor money is and all that, who's putting up the money and whatever. So obviously they got to get back some money on ticket sales or food or wherever. However, there's some, the money is so crazy I can't really make sense of it. I'm not sure how it makes financial sense to anybody, but I think with that said, they could have also just been like, hey, listen, to all the regulars who dump tons of money into this organization to keep it afloat, we're not trying to screw you guys. We just also need to try to save the track or whatever they're trying to do with this money, or bring some new series or whatever the jam is. But that said, I think we've got an uphill battle with the sport dying in general. It seems I got the manufacturers bailing out of MotoGP, and we just had another track day thing with Belly Up last month or something. One of the Midwest track day people, they closed down. There's just not a lot of money or sponsorship. It's kind of like a dead end road. It's like an old, we're like the last of survivors here of a certain thing. So I think everybody's just trying to survive, and we have a recession coming as well, or we're in one right now probably. So all that said, I don't know. I think it's all good. I think a lot of our guys are going to be in the top positions, and we'll see the rest, how it shakes out.
Man, I got to say, I agree with you, Jamie. I think we're going to see a lot of our guys in the fight near the front. What's the bottom? What's 30 pay? I don't know, but a chunk.
Like $1,000 or $1,100 now.
So
Breakdown, I think.
There's some guys that are going to be in there. And I know my little company, I'll donate to an amateur purse. I know that there's some other people, I'm sure Joe Amendola would, I'm sure, we'll do what we can. But at the end of the day, like Jamie said, that amount of money, I cannot make any sense of that either. $250,000, it's a lot of money. Moto America guys aren't earning that for a race win. So I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, they're not even getting. I think the first place purse one I saw was $30,000 for the big race.
I think it's 50.
Yeah, it's up to almost 55 now. Yeah,
it's 55,000 for the win.
They don't make that if they win 3 or 4 Moto America races, I don't believe.
No.
As far as the purses go.
But even if it happens once for the 100th and never happens again, it's something that happened in New Hampshire within the past 20 years. Something big that occurred, whether we win it or somebody else wins it. It's it's still a big race to.
Oh yeah, it's
either way,
freaking huge.
Does anybody have any theories on where the money's coming from?
I've noticed a nice rise in the license registration. I don't know if you guys looked at that, but I think it went doubled this year.
That's big.
I don't know what it was last year. I think it was something like $80. Now it's up to 170, 175, something like that.
125 last year, or 130.
Was it? Okay.
30. So maybe it's not as bad, but still, but that's definitely not where all of the money's coming from. That's for sure. They definitely have sponsors that are coming in pretty heavily.
Yeah.
I want to say I follow a lot of racing series. I watch MotoGP religiously. I watch Moto America religiously. I've gone to help out some Moto America rounds. I've really enjoyed that. And when they launched the King of the Baggers 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, this is this is tomfoolery. This is so stupid. But when I was at Road Atlanta in the springtime, and you see the turnout there because of that King of the Baggers race, when I was in Daytona and you see how many people are there for the King of the Baggers and the Hooligans races, I think this is a very similar thing. I mean, they're trying to attract a different crowd. Otherwise, this thing just slowly goes away, like it has been. And I don't know. I know some people are really bent out of shape about it, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a spectacle. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I thought the bagger thing was crazy too, but I think it's working out pretty well. So,
Oh, holy shit, Brett's like, I heard Doug Chandler and the Boston boys are coming. Holy shit. I mean, Doug was right. I've been at Daytona with Doug Chandler when they've came to the CCS race a week prior to the 200, and they'd come sandbag us in the CCS races. And Doug was one of them. I will give him kudos all day long. If he was out winning one of the CCS classes, the last lap he'd pull off. And so would almost all the big name guys back then in the AMA days of the 200. But man, he threw that out there, and I was like, "Holy shit, he's been around." The Bostroms, all those
Yeah,
guys.
my old man's been around for sure.
The old man's been around, just like me. Oh, geez. All right. Well, we're right at an hour, and I wanted to try and keep it at an hour, and I wanted to bring that big elephant out. And I understand both sides of the coin on that, but in the long run, if we do get a lot of big teams there, or we get some factory teams that show up, I think it's going to be good for the sport and good for New Hampshire and good for Loudon and good for NEMRR in the long run. If nothing else, maybe we'll get more spectators at some of the regular.
I mean, as somebody that's trying to qualify, I'm definitely jazzed for it, even though I may not even make it in the show. It'll definitely be cool.
Yeah, it's definitely going to put it on the map. Definitely going to put it on the map. Going to send it around. Final thoughts. Do you think this is worth me continuing on with and bringing people on and just bullshitting, or is it a waste of everybody's time?
No, this is
Go ahead,
awesome.
Josh.
This is great. And then I love how I just happened by chance. I was the first one to get asked about the elephant in the room there. So put me on the spot. But no, this is great. It gives everybody the opportunity to kind of, let everybody else from NEMRR that might not know who we are put a face to a name and, see who else we're competing with out there on the track. And who knows? Maybe I'll come home with that $250,000 in a couple of months. We'll see. But no, this is great. I appreciate it. Thank you for this. This was awesome.
And Ryan.
I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hour we spent talking here. I enjoyed watching the past few episodes, so I think it's great. Definitely stirs the pot here a little, get some ideas flowing. So I would continue it.
I think it's rad, man. I think any way that anyone can help push the series forward, whatever way, like I try to sponsor a race or a couple younger kids every year, a little bit with some parts and stuff like that. You're doing this podcast. I think, anyone pushing the thing forward a little bit is a huge help to what we do. And I've had a good time tonight. I'll do it again anytime.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having you on, Daryl. Adam.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been good. I think it's cool to get everybody's opinions and hear some dudes that I don't think I've really met most of you. I know I've met Daryl, I've obviously met Ryan a bunch. I don't know about you two other guys, but it's nice meeting you guys. It's been good talking to you and cool to put faces to the names, like they said.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think keep it going. Probably some fresh questions every round, and maybe get some of the fast guys on. Maybe they'll give up some secrets.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
right.
Yeah, and all you guys over in the chat, if you want to get on here, like I said, I usually post over in the NEMRR group on Facebook, or send me a friend request, or send me a hate text or whatever, and I'll get the next one set up and I'll get you on here. Some of the fast guys love to get them on. Actually, some of the sponsors, well, like Daryl, he runs a business, and some of the other guys that are supporting us out there at the track. Just, I'd love to get just a group of them on here to talk about how things are going for them, and are they going to continue on and stuff like that. So I think it's great. But you guys can hold tight for 1 second. Let me give my ending blurb. So if you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, and make sure you hit that bell for notifications so you get notified anytime we do a live, or anytime I upload new stuff. I'm going to have a lot of new stuff coming with the new bike build, hopefully starting next week. But if you're out there riding on twos, keep the shiny side up, rubber side down. And as always, have yourself a great day.
Thanks, Greg.